Well, it's Thursday BookTube. A book collaboration hosted by myself and Patty from Life with Patty. Every week we invite you to read some books, do something book related. I made a bookmark for one of my booktubes. We've done book openings, book tours, whatever you want to do that has some book related, literacy related thing attached. Be sure to hashtag Thursday BookTube and also tag myself, my mountain home and kitchen, and Patty at Life with Patty so that we will see you when you post and we can add you to the playlist. I don't know if you can see here, but I have my, let me move this, I have my cup of tea and I have my book and I have my little note card. And I'm going to be talking about a book called Food Freedom by Robin Greenfield. This book is about a year of growing and foraging 100% of my food, empowerment manual for liberation through food, Robin Greenfield. So I've been watching Robin Greenfield for years. He has the YouTube channel and I see him online and I've read articles about him. He's a visionary, but like a lot of visionary, he goes over the, well, I'm not going to say he goes over the top. He feels it's necessary to go over the top, whatever your definition of over the top is. But often visionaries, even if they go over the top, have an important message. And I think Robin Greenfield has an important message in this book. So Robin Greenfield has been progressing in his life, environmental causes and identity causes, and what does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to walk on this earth? All sorts of things. And like I mentioned, I've watched his videos and sort of seen what he's been up to over the years. Even the book itself, I have it on the Kindle, but even the book itself is free. You can get the book for free. The book is entirely compostable, so if you decide you don't like it, you throw it in your compost pile and it's gone, even the ink. And if you do donate money for the book, proceeds go to an organization which Robin feels is important that has to do with gardening and food. So about 8 years ago, Robin decided that what he wanted to do was take 1 year and grow and forage all of his own food, everything, no exceptions. And this took almost a year of preparation, maybe a little longer than a year of preparation. He set it very strict parameters for himself. He would either grow the food, grow it himself, or he would forage in just public places and different places where edible plants grow. And that was it. There was going to be no purchasing from the supermarket. There was going to be no rummaging around in other people's gardens. He was not going to take any food donations. This was all things that he caught, grew, or found himself. So he writes this book in kind of a journal form, and also he has a lot of asides as to what he has learned from that experience and what has happened. By the end of his year-long journey, he had grown over 100 types of foods and foraged about 200 types of medicinal herbs and flavor herbs and seasonings and leaves and all sorts of things like that. He started this journey in Orlando. He decided that was where he was going to start it, and I was kind of interested to see that Orlando has a lot of this community gardens and home food gardening and organic gardening going on in the city. I had no idea. I've been to Orlando a couple of times and maybe I just haven't seen enough places there. I was happy about that. He said that one of the things he learned is in Florida, the summer season is considered their winter because it is so hot you can't grow anything there, so you plant a fall garden. So Robin had to deal with maybe three main things. He needed to find a place to live, he needed to find some place to grow, and he needed to figure out how much nutrition he would need to grow and forage himself, to live and to be healthy and to have all the basic vitamins and minerals that he needed. For living, he kind of rummaged around and he finally found a place in Orlando where the woman said he could build a tiny house in the back. So he built that little house in the back and he stayed there. And as part of his whole foraging and all that stuff, he had a composting toilet and really lived that sort of life. The tiny house, I've seen another tiny house he lived in, was not like a real formal type house. It was basically just a small structure. while he was looking for housing, he got in touch with a bunch of different gardening groups in Orlando, and he ended up finding 6 homes of people who wanted to grow gardens at their home. And he said with the space there, he would grow there, and they could take whatever they wanted out of their own garden, but that would be part of his food for the year, or getting things set up so he'd have food to start the year and then to go back and continue to grow to maintain his food supply through the year. And finally, he had to find foragers. He could forage a certain amount, but he was not familiar with Orlando or with Florida and what was available. So he found people who knew how to forage and who knew the local land and the local landscape and the local flora and fauna. So this journey was quite something. Robin is very disciplined. He did not once touch anything that he didn't grow or forage himself. Even salt. He would go to the ocean and get sea salt, and he has a system he puts in his book how you get salt out of salt water. Every single thing he put in his mouth, he either foraged or grew. And he was going to start the year a little earlier, and he has a list, which of course I could not find when I was looking for it. I thought I had bookmarked it, but I couldn't find it. A list of how many pounds of each sort of food he had to start the year off, and it wasn't enough, but it was a lot of food. He had pumpkins, was looking for mangoes, he had greens, a wide variety of things you could grow there. So he had a freezer at his disposal, a pressure cooker, a dehydrator, and a crock pot, I believe. So he just started cooking and making food and making his own cheese, and like I mentioned, making his own salt. He even made his own oil from coconuts. He made his own coconut oil. He also noticed some of the physical differences he was going through as he went through this journey. One of the physical differences was he was not able to get enough fat or enough animal protein into himself, or just enough protein, period. And he said he could start feeling it in his skin, he could start feeling it in his body. A couple times he did leave Florida to go visit family in Wisconsin, and he took his own food. And when he was in Wisconsin, he did his own foraging because he wasn't there long enough to garden. And one of the things he did was fishing, and he was able to finally catch enough fish to sustain him and enough fish to kind of dry and preserve for when he returned to Florida. So that solved the problem of not having enough fat in his diet. Interestingly enough, that you think that Florida would be a place where there would be just endless amounts of things to eat. He said actually Wisconsin was way more fruitful in a manner of speaking. Even though their growing season is shorter, he said there was much more abundance. He caught a lot of big fish there. There was just lots more abundance and a lot more available calories, both that you could garden and that you could forage. So that was kind of interesting. So he made it through. And I think he continues to do that. And the book, again, talks about his journey. It talks about the things he learned. He talks about the things that are possible to do and the things that maybe we should be doing more of, growing our own food, trying to buy things in bulk, trying to lower our footprint on the world. He talks about factory farming and chemicals and what they do to the earth. And he's a very, very engaging writer. So it's pleasant to read, even things that are unpleasant. He just draws you along. He didn't really address the situation with the fact that what he was doing right now was what people have been doing for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years, mainly women. He did have the freezer, he did have the dehydrator, the pressure cooker, and the crock pot. I believe that's what he had. And people were farming and growing gardens and foraging and doing all that sort of stuff for forever. And processing food. He said he was exhausted because he was spending 40 to 60 hours a week processing food. At one point he had to process some coconuts to make oil, and he was just so exhausted. He said he saw a squirrel on top of the pile of coconuts he had, and I think the squirrel was trying to get into the coconuts, and he just didn't care. And all I can say is that people have been doing that forever, and I think it would have been a good place for him to acknowledge that people all over the world, again, especially women, are doing that now, have done it for years. They're canning, they're trying to figure out how not to waste food, they're trying to figure out how to feed their family. They're trying to cook, they're trying to preserve, they're trying to do all that stuff. So that acknowledgement was kind of missing for me. You know, you're not the only one who's had to do that. But all in all, the book was a very interesting and enjoyable read. Like I said, he's a very engaging personality. It was interesting to see how he overcame certain problems and how, until he figured out what plants he could use for seasoning things, how boring the food could get, and just a lot of different things like that. But that said, the book was actually a very interesting read. You read about his struggles, you read about what he's finding, what he's not finding, what's missing. I give him a lot of credit for figuring out the amount of calories he would need to sustain himself, how much vitamins in each meal, and how that all worked for him. I'm going to read you right now a typical daily meal for Robin Greenfield during this time. Here's what a typical day of food looked like for Robin Greenfield during his first 2 months. Breakfast: mango, starfruit, coconut, moringa, turmeric, and holy basil smoothie. Lunch: cassava, green papaya, cooked greens and herbs. Dinner: cassava, fish, cooked green and herbs. Snacks: coconut, honey, greens, starfruit. Lunch and dinner varied around a similar theme, interchanging cassava, sweet potatoes, and yam, and having seminole pumpkin or green papaya at many meals. I ate fish as often as I had the supply, and southern peas with some frequency. I changed up my meals by having my fish in starchy vegetable and collard wraps, sometimes mashing the starchy vegetables and sometimes eating them in whole form, making blended or chunky soups, or sauteing the veggies with water, not oil. Ferments improve my meals once I had the abundance. At the end of the book, Robin talks about community building, about food, about trading food, about foraging, about knowing all the good things around us, about wasting our space on lawns and all sorts of things like that. He has a lot of philosophies, and I think basically they're true and they're good. How much anyone follows them, I guess is up to how much you believe in this, but I do believe in it to a great extent, and it was interesting to see what he was able to do what he was able to do in maybe 2 years, because he needed about a year to prepare for this. But I think once he got off and running, he could just continue. So after reading this, I ordered 2 more big refrigerators I'm going to lay on their back and fill with soil and grow twice as much as I grew last year. So he did have an influence. I thought, you're right. There are things I like. I looked at those 2 small refrigerators that I have right now laying on their back filled with soil, waiting for seeds. And I thought, I need to do better, and I can do better, and everything I need is right here. So that was certainly my takeaway from Food Freedom. So anyway, if you like nonfiction and you like this sort of thing, this is definitely the book for you. As I've said, I've enjoyed Robin Greenfield. I've enjoyed his videos I've watched. His life philosophy is kind of interesting, and I will tell you, he looks very healthy. I think he's close to 40 right now. He looks amazing, so there must be something to it. Thank you so much for watching.